There's something that everybody got to realize, and I don't care what sector of this world you come from, what ethnicity, what genre. What sector of life you come from, and nobody realized this at all until you're faced with a dramatic event of a job, coming out of retirement at 67 years old, went through another 8 years of hell through another corporation from Target stores when you got injured at work, and you question yourself, your value to corporate America. And it bothers me deeply only because you got people running around here like chickens with their heads off, trying to please a boss, trying to please a corporation of shareholders, a corporation of bureaucrats, plutocrats, oligarchs. And all intents and purposes, you're nothing but a number. And you start working your life living on a farm in southern New Jersey, and you work hard, and you go to school too, and you come back home from school, and you got to work hard again, and you did this all your life, and then you find yourself being a victim, being victimized, oppressed, suppressed, in this genre you call working class. Then you tell yourself, what is it all for? You buy yourself a car to drive back and forth to work, you raise a family, you purchase a home, you take vacations. But what is it all for? When you give the best of yourself to people who don't give a damn about you. And I mean that with all sincerity and all convictions. They don't give a damn about you. They smile in your face. They sit down and give you all kind of accolades. But they never tell you the truth. They never tell you the truth and how they really feel. And that is that you're just a number. You're just an employee number. And they make all these little innuendos, teams, and family, and all these, you're a family, we're a team. There's no I in team. And corporation is all about themselves. So let's not lie to ourselves. And you know I'm driven by my convictions, and I hold back for nobody or nothing. You try and look for some kind of integrity. You try to look for some kind of honor in people, and you especially at the age of 67, you try to find some kind of irony in it all, some kind of purpose, especially when you were going through years and years of pain from a work injury, from a job that once again still didn't give a damn about you. And it's not a black thing. And a lot of people always want to gravitate toward that mindset that, oh, we live in a white society and black men had his thumb down on black people. And it's a reality. Black people will never find equality. It's never going to happen. As much as you want to dream, we can march and have dreams and hair standing speeches and quotes and poetry and songs. But equality is something that you have to have personally within yourself. You you got to believe in you. You have to drive you, because there's nobody else in this world is going to do that. You'll get your pats on the back, you'll get your accolades, you'll get your hugs, but you're never going to find the very joy of your life without having God in your life. That's the epitome of who I am, is my belief in God. And not all the times do I sound like a deep, devoted Christian young man. A lot of times my words may not project the man that I am, the young man that once had strong convictions, passion for the love of people. And somehow down through the years of going through so much pain and so much anguish that it deteriorates and you get hardened. And we all experience that, because you find out what life really is. And the reason why I embrace that quote, this is not your home. And the Bible tells you that this is just a preparing place. You're pilgrim travelers in a strange land. And it is strange because the lack of God, the lack of integrity, the lack of morality, the lack of honor and ethics, the lawlessness. And like anything else in life, you take the smaller percentage of people and you treat them like subservience. And you make this big infrastructure of corporate activity, people in suits and ties, and your gated communities, and your lavish living of greed and gluttony, and the people that actually make you the wealth that you sit and glory behind, or what you steal from unfair wages or non-payment of health care, that you don't hire the youthful people anymore. You hire the elderly because they have their own health care. And you know they're more reliable. But it's all a game. It's a gambit. It's life is it's like a chessboard. It's strategic moves and how to manipulate, deceive, to gain individual wealth, just like they did in this country. You didn't come to coexist. You didn't come to befriend. You didn't come to become part of humanity. You come to destroy it. The reason why, and that same philosophy runs through corporate America. You come to invade, massacre, slaughter, genocide, steal rich mineral resources. It's like you steal from people's lives, steal from their family, because you don't pay you don't pay fair wages. You don't give people what's due, what's fair. It's like minimum wage. You think you pay a person a significant amount of money, but you don't. You sit in your corporate office, your cigar is stuck in your mouth, or you sit behind your desk, or you sit in your pajamas at home, and you run a particular team, and you think you're a humanitarian. You're not. And I'm talking about you, Acosta, international. And you spin that same web. You spin that same web of deceit and manipulation with people's lives, while you're making billions of dollars and they're making peanuts. And you think that justifies your inhumane actions against your employees and the so-called corporations you represent. I went to college for business administration. We studied marketing. We studied the ads. We studied the philosophy and how to get people to buy certain products, and all the manipulation and the deception through advertisement, and to get them to do that. Subliminal pictures, all the glitter and lights, all the celebrities and everything else to get a certain product to stand out more than anyone else. It's all a game. And I've done this so many times in my life. I've been in sales and retail management for over 40 some odd years. From in-store to a car salesman to electronics, men's and women's stores, lumber, anything you can imagine, I've sold. But the only thing that people don't understand and they will never understand about me. No matter how you treat me or what you do to me, won't affect me because I'm that driven. I've always been that driven. And nothing and no one in this world will take my integrity away from me, will take my joy of what I chose as a career, my family, um, the few friends, the few people I can call friends. Because the only true friend I have in my life is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit and the Almighty God. Three, who I can count on no matter what. No matter what I go through, no matter what position in life I'm at, they're the three people I can depend on 100% without fail. And through my 67 years, they've been there without a doubt. And I worked for enough companies to know how they operate. They bring you in at an entry level. You work your ass off. And they just like cattle, they just hustle you to different parts of their little infrastructure they call a corporation, which is built on deception, manipulation, and lies, because they're never going to give you what you're worth. Let's understand that. They're never going to give you what you're worth, because the whole propaganda of work is a lie. Because first of all, they tell you that you earn a living. You don't earn a living. Because first you have to have equal pay for equal work. And you don't get that. And I know there's a percentage of people out there who are not going to give 100%. That's anywhere you go. And there's a percentage of people out there who want to be brown nosers and not work like everybody else. There's a percentage of that too. But for those of us who have the integrity, who have the honor to be true working people, true working class, devoted to the companies you work for, you are the ones that are victimized every day, because you don't get the proper wage, you don't get the proper benefits, you don't get the proper acknowledgement for what you do, and you never will. And that's the honesty behind it. You never will. And corporations like Acosta, like Target, like Walmart, they're never going to recognize the devotion and the work ethic that their people give them, because you have a bunch of pencil necks behind desks crunching numbers, when in any business, in any job, it's the boots on the ground that actually epitomizes a corporation, or epitomizes a company, because you're dealing with the general public every day. You're not sitting behind some computer or sitting behind some desk giving out directions and believing because you have an Ivy League degree that you know more than anybody else. And in all intents and purposes, you know less, because hands-on negates book knowledge. Book knowledge is only useful to egomaniac professors in a college room. Because you talk about philosophies. First of all, philosophy is nothing without application. You have to apply whatever you learn. And applying means hands-on. A piece of sheepskin means nothing unless you have this experience to back it up. It's just a wasted piece of paper. There's knowledge, and then there's street knowledge. And the only way you're going to get through this world that you're going to have to experience what you so-called learn in school. And I'm making this video for one reason only, to expose and to shine light on this phrase we use, corporate America. And you really don't know what corporate America is until you work for it. How deceptive, how manipulative, how they have the little henchmen, their little sheep, their little goats every day to go and drum up charges, especially when they want to get rid of you. In all intents and purposes, corporations in the beginning may mean well. But somehow down through the years and down through the growth of wealth, people lose sight on the people that got them there, on the very people that worked their sweat and tears and loyalty, got them to where they're at. And I joined this company because I thought it was a company that it exudes integrity, exudes the philosophy that I have, that you work hard and you get ahead. But how can you work hard when you're never going to see a raise? How is it that you're going to go anywhere in a company if you're not given opportunity to grow? How is it that you run the miles on the highway for a corporation and you're never having equal mileage for the wear and tear on your car that you use for their corporations every day? Standard rate for mileage is 50 cents to 55 cents. You're getting 31 cents. You use your personal garage to store their shippers, their advertisements. You use your vehicle to put their coupons in and their shippers so you can go to your store calls. And understand one thing, Nestle, Dannon, and all these other companies, Procter & Gamble, all these other companies that Acosta represents for you. If you think that every day you walk into a store, and that's coming from somebody not behind a desk, not some pencil neck, not somebody with their face stuck into a computer screen and keyboard. This is somebody that's out in the field every day. If you think that every time you walk into a store, you're going to pack out these magical numbers, no, you're not. When you walk into a store, you don't think that certain things happen, like coolers going down, like the transition of employees and managers being shifted around doesn't affect your job performance, because it does. You think just because you throw some advertisement out there that you're going to get these magical numbers. You're not. That's coming from somebody with 40 some odd plus years of sales experience, not someone who sits behind a computer screen and a keyboard, not some Ivy League young kid that thinks he has the world by the horns and don't have a clue what life is about, or some executive with a cigar stuck in his mouth, sits behind a desk and give out directions to a bunch of sheep and goats, thinking they're going to get ahead in the company by brown nosing. That's not reality. I'm upset only because of the fact that nothing seems to matter in the workforce. It's all the same thing. It's those who cheat and steal, manipulate and deceive. They're the people that get ahead in life. It's not the hardworking people, unless you own your own business. And let's have an understanding. It's never going to change for working class poor people, because it's by some episode in your life you think that you're going to fall into this corporation or company that appreciates everything that you do. That's another American wet dream. Now, mind you, I've worked for a couple of companies in my life that treated me fairly. And one company is Spatch Brothers, that was owned by a wonderful Jewish man. Another company was Agri Market, and I had a boss named Mr. Buttons. And that was back when I was a young kid, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. That's the only time in my life I ever experienced a boss that appreciated me. Not as a black man, as a man, as a human being. And ever since then, I never experienced it again. Because back in those days, as much as turmoil was going on, civil rights and everything else, and everything technology wasn't the same. But what was different than it is now was integrity, was honor. That when you worked for something, you got paid for it. When you went over and beyond, you were recognized and you were paid for it. It wasn't by words. It wasn't by some stupid shirt or some hat or some numbers that you got to put into a tablet and answering some dumb questions that has no significance whatsoever to the performance in the stores that you go to. Because if you had any common sense and understanding that when you make store calls and you talk about building a relationship with store managers, building a relationship with the dairy department, building a relationship with this person and that person, you have to understand not all people are the same. And this is what corporate doesn't teach you. Demographics aren't the same. That every town that you go to doesn't operate the same, doesn't buy the same way. And if you took your heads out your ass, got off your fat asses in corporate America and actually went out in real life, you'd understand this. You can go from one town to another. You can go from Windsor, Fort Collins, all the way down to Brighton, to Boulder, to Longmont. And the diversity of people and the diversity of people's needs are as different as night and day. To all you Ivy League, corporate America, zombies, understand that. A computer screen and a keyboard don't teach you that. It's called a hands-on. It's called being out in the general public. And sending somebody who sits behind a computer in their pajamas, you fly them out. They see you in one day, walk through your store calls, and you think that you understand what I do every day. You're clueless. You have no idea. Especially when you don't want to travel to the stores that a person struggles with, that the store struggles. You want to stay local. You want to stay what's comfortable for you. It's the same thing as soldiers in a battle. and you got generals behind some board with play soldiers and trying to bring up some strategy with human lives at stake. Same thing with corporate America. You set some big corporate building and you think that you understand what goes on daily in the streets that people travel to, the individual stores you go to. You don't have a clue. And you can crunch all the numbers that you want. And your POS process, which in all intents and purposes is a $12 million piece of shit. That's your terminology of POS, because it doesn't work. And if you go back into stock rooms that I've seen thousands of in my years in retail, it doesn't work. You can look in some little Telzon or some little mini computer or some little iPod that tells you there's 16 on the shelf when there's only one. Or they tell you that you have 0 when you have 24 items on the shelf. That's why POS doesn't work, and it never did work. And the moron that created it knew it didn't work. But he got $12 million. So what does that matter? Now I tell my boss this. And I tell Acosta Corporation this, and your HR department. You forget one thing. And the reason why a lot of corporations struggle, because you forget the integrity of people. You forget the integrity of humanity. You forget what corporations were built from. And that's people. And unless you respect people, young or old, you respect people, male or female, you're not going to have success. You're always going to struggle. You're always going to have your moments and your scales of ups and downs until you get to the human integrity of appreciating people, not by numbers, because you're not cattle, not by numbers, because you're not some number on some spreadsheet or some computer screen or some sheep and goats that you manipulate to get what you need to get done by going the cheapest route you can to save your shareholders and your investors money. And this is your Walmarts, your Acostas, your Targets, all of you, because you'll never understand the integrity of people. Because the only thing that you look at is profit. That's the bottom line. And let's just be straightforward and honest. And you can say whatever you want out of that mouth. It means nothing. It means this. Because unless you show it, it means nothing. And you can bring up some corporate policy, which is made up on nonsense anyway, that you don't even follow yourselves. And when I joined this company, I love the idea of being free from being inside of a store, having the freedom to travel and learning people from different parts of Colorado. I generally enjoyed it. I did. It became part of my life every day. And I met a lot of wonderful people. And I met people that made me question. But I had one boss, and her name was Chris. She was someone who understood what people were about. She cared about her people. When I worked for the Nestle team, Chris cared about her people. Even till the time when Nestle split with Acosta and she went to another team, the purple team, and she told us that if you need anything from her, just give her a call. And she exhumes every part of a manager of people. Not everybody can manage people. Not everybody can manage a group of people. Some people, you just don't have that makeup. And I've seen a lot of that in Acosta. You just don't have that makeup. And I've worked with my bosses, and I've worked for people who represent Dannon. And I've told my boss on many occasions, and I don't care how big a corporation is, you can never stop learning from the people, the small people, the people that you don't recognize, the people that you think are just numbers. Those people are the ones that actually make you money, not your executive idiots and sheep that runs around in your corporate offices thinking they believe that they understand what goes on in stores every day, which they don't, because you're in an office environment of cutthroats trying to please the CEO, but to actually be on ground level and understand what goes on a daily basis, what people see every day, that takes a different kind of boss. Sometimes you need to jump on a bus, all of you, in your corporate little nest. Jump on a bus and actually come down to the real world. What you don't see behind that computer screen and that keyboard and that cigar stuck in your mouth and your little executive lunches. And this is just not for Acosta, Target, Walmart. This is all of you. Fortune 500 who think that you have the epitome, the monopoly on success. You don't. And without your people, your success would be this much. And your shareholders' investments would be that much. That means nothing without your people. And I make this video for one thing, for the people that follow me or will come after me. Don't put up with unfair wages. If you're not going to get raises for your job performance, company's not worth working for. If you're not going to get fair mileage for the wear and tear you put on your car, company's not worth it. If you're not getting paid for your cell phone service that you use for company's not worth it. If you're not going to get expenses for storing their equipment in your garage, company's not worth it, because they're taking more than they're giving from you. And the reality, you go into a store, let's talk about a store call. You get into your store, you leave your house 8 o'clock, you get to your store 9 o'clock. And what you clowns don't understand, the shipments in these stores don't come on time. In fact, a lot of companies have problems with their trucking companies that ship their shipments to their store. And unknown to you clowns, they've been late. They've been coming 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning. And how would you know that? Sitting behind some computer and keyboard. Some managers been taken out of stores. Some dairy managers have walked out and quit. And these are the things that you deal with on a daily basis. People don't order right. You got a bunch of young kids who think that if they don't order it, they don't have to put it out. Things that you deal with on a daily basis. People that are overworked, underpaid, They're frustrated, and their job performance shows it. Things you don't deal with on a daily basis. And when you talk about your weekly and monthly ads, and you're talking to companies that only put certain products out on display, and it's mainly their products, and anybody else's products, it's who they decide what goes whether it's line 1, line 2, line 3, line 6, line 7, line 8, line 9, line 10, all your lines, which is all intents and purposes is BS anyway, because your consumer doesn't care about lines. Your consumer cares about a product, whether that product suits their needs. And I don't care where you put it at, where you put it in Walmart, where you put it in Target, where you put it in Kroger's, where you put it in Safeway. I don't care where you put it. People don't need it, they're not going to buy it. And your impulsive buys, your daily needs in your grocery store, which are dairy and your grocery, your bread, your milk, your eggs, common products that people buy every single day, cheese. It's a no-brainer. They automatically sell. You don't need to advertise it. You throw it up, people buy it. And this new mindless game of organic, which in all intents and purposes means nothing. It's just regular farming without your GMO chemicals of cancer. And I love when people think that they have so much intelligence about marketing and retail, and you don't understand the day-to-day operations. You don't. Even your managers of your store don't understand your day-by-day operation. It's the people who work the products. And unless you're a manager who talks to your people, who has a relationship with your people, you ain't gonna understand that either. And I've seen that too. I've seen managers in the stores that I visit who have a relationship with their people, and others that don't. Others who sit up in their office crunching numbers. But you forget that you have to have a relationship with your people, and you got to have a relationship with your customers. That's old school, and that's when I first started. I've seen the mall and Paul store success become corporate failures, because you think by building pretty elaborate buildings in all the fancy colors sells products. No, it doesn't. The basis you build any business on is the respect and appreciation for customer base. And if you don't understand that, you will never have true success. If you think that you're so smart that you don't need a customer base, that you don't need to have people when you walk into a store to help your customer base find a certain product or find their needs, every person that looks around a Walmart, that looks around a Target, that looks around a Kmart, that looks around any store, Kroger's, any store, and you can't find a person to answer a question, that's one, two, three people that you lose. And you multiply those 2 to 3 people not coming back into your store on a yearly basis, that's a lot of people. So if you want to cut back your workforce to save money for your shareholders and your investors, and you're not getting the store coverage that you need, how much of a customer base you think you're losing on an annual basis? Think about that, corporate America. And that's what happens down through the years. And I've been in retail for 40 some odd years, and I've seen the transition. And this pick list and this grab and go may work for millennials, but then you have an older generation that needs to ask questions and need to be serviced. And that's where we fell short in the retail industry, the industry that I love, that I used to have respect for and no longer do, because just what I see, the mindset and philosophy of a lot of corporations, of a lot of companies. You don't care about the customer base. You care about one thing, and that's profit. And that's where you're losing. And that's where you'll always lose. You're not going to change people, Acosta, Target, Walmart. You're not going to change the basic needs. And you'll make money regardless. You'll make dumb money. And when I say you make dumb money, you'll make money. People come in the stores regardless what you do, regardless how you advertise, regardless how pretty you make your stores. They're just basic human needs, and has nothing to do with you corporate idiots behind computers and computer screens and keyboards. It has to do with basic human need. And that's one thing that you can make it all colorful all you want. You can advertise, you can make it pretty. The person doesn't want to buy a product, they're not going to buy it. In most cases, that is driven. It's driven by one thing. It's driven by need. And working class America understand one thing: you will never be appreciated for what you do. So the best thing you do, you work for yourself, like I do. I work to please God. I work to please me. I don't please my boss because you'll never be appreciated anyway, no matter what you do. In the 40 some odd years, just like I said, there were two companies in all my 40 some odd years in retail that appreciated me. And that was the beginning. And in this latter gambit and manipulation and deception, you're not going to be appreciated. You're not going to be paid equal pay for equal work because everybody's looking for a way to not pay you for what you're worth, and pleasing the shareholders and the investors. And that's the whole genre of corporate America. It's all about cutthroat and making profit. And that will never change because the same mindset in corporate America is the same mindset in your government: manipulation and deception. And it never changes. Just understand that. Costa, you were a means to an end, to understand that. And by me not being with the company anymore, it means very little to me because I still have an income coming in. And that's not going to change. And you can make up all the stories you want. You can say, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. But understand one thing. When I left Nestle from Chris, it was the worst mistake I could ever make to work for Dannon and Mick Rosengarten and for Tammy. Because when a person works part-time and then you transition to them to full-time and you still pay them part-time wages, and you may be a corporate bureaucrat or an oligarch, that's illegal. In any labor law, if there's any true labor laws, you can't pay a person part-time wages for full-time work. when you transition them from another team to a next, and you take your time for whatever reason to pay them what they're worth, and the holidays that were due them, and the time off that was due them. And regardless, you can make up any story you want about numbers because you control those numbers, Tammy. You can make up all kind of lies you want about calls and whatever the case may be when you're only getting paid for 40 hours. And it doesn't matter how long you spend in a store or when you close out your call, it doesn't reflect your pay. You could stay in a store for a minute and it doesn't reflect your pay. You're still going to get paid 40 hours. You're still going to charge Dan in 40 hours. So your lies that you put out there to dismiss a person is only because I told the truth. Because even you told me, Tammy, that Dannon only sees you as a number. But I'm sure you'll deny that too, because you're one of those corporate lab rats. I'll find another job. That's inevitable. And I'll still be Isaiah. But I'll not ever be a corporate monkey.